Good afternoon. Welcome back to Mrs. Bisson's virtual classroom. Today we will be learning how to find simple interest using a formula. You will need your sharpened pencil with an eraser, your calculator, your guided notes sheet. Of course, you'll follow along and fill in the spaces as prompted in the video, and your headphones. If you are missing any of these items, please pause the video and go retrieve them and resume the video when you get back. So let's review. First of all, when you're working with simple interests and solving simple interests using a formula, you need to remember what a formula is and how you solve those. So a formula is a special type of equation that shows the relationship between different variables. For example, last year you found the area of a rectangle by using the formula A equals L times W, where area, A equals area, and you multiplied the length multiplied by the width. So L, the variable L was the length, and the variable W was the width. So all you did to solve the formula was to replace each variable with the known value, and then you can solve. So that's what we'll be doing with interest. So what is interest? Interest is money paid regularly at a particular rate for the use of money lent or for delaying the repayment of a debt. So I know those sound like fancy terms. Go ahead and watch this description and you'll learn more about interest.
What are interest rates? Presented by WallStreetSurvivor.com. Interest is a fee paid by someone who borrows money to the person he borrows it from, and an interest rate is the amount that borrower pays. Here's Ben. Ben just graduated from high school and was accepted into a top university. Sounds great, right? Only problem, the tuition is too much for him and his parents to bear. So, Ben and his folks head over to the bank to borrow money for school. Ben talks to the banker and gets a loan for $50,000 to pay for his education. But why would the bank do this? Ben's a nice guy and all, but what's their benefit in lending out the money? The answer is interest rates. In exchange for the $50,000 loan, the bank will charge Ben 5% interest each year until the loan is repaid. So each year, Ben will pay the bank $2,500 in interest. Interest is almost like paying rent on the money you're borrowing.
So now we need to figure out how to find simple interest. And there's a really easy equation that you can use. It's I equals PRT, where the simple interest equals the principal multiplied by the rate multiplied by time. So I is the interest money created in dollars. P is the principal starting amount of money. R is the interest rate per year in decimal form. And T is the time the money is invested or borrowed in years. It's important because this does need to be in years, and we'll review this in one of our examples and you'll learn how to do that. So remember percent and what that meant. We worked with percents when we were working with our proportions before, and we knew that percent was the percent over 100. Okay, so how do you convert your percentage into a decimal so that you can place it into your equation? All you have to do is move the decimal over to the left 2 times. That's cooler than a figure skating penguin. So let's get back to our example. All you have to do, let's use 50% as our number. So for 50%, you have 50%. So we know that there's an invisible decimal place there. So what would be, it would look like that. So all you have to do is move your decimal place over, disappeared. You move it over 2 times. So 1, 2, and you have 0.50. and that is the number that you would use in your formula. It's very, very simple. You could, if you wanted to think about it like we were before when we were doing proportions, that is just like taking 50 and dividing it by 100. So if you want to on your calculator, go ahead and do 50 divided by 100 and you should get 0.50. All you did was move your decimal place over 2 times. So what if you have the situation where there aren't enough places to move the decimal? So let's use the example of 5% rather than the 50%. So let's say we have 5%. We know that we've got that decimal place there on the right-hand side. All you do is move it once, then move it twice, but there's nothing there. You just add the 0. So you would use 0.05 in the formula. So it's very, very simple, and I think all of you, I know all of you will be able to do this for our examples. So for our first example, we know it asks you how much interest does a $318 investment earn at 9% over 1 year. So we know that our formula before was I equals PRT. And we are going to use our cube strategy because we are fantastic 7th grade mathematicians. I'm going to circle our numbers. How much interest is the question? Oops. And okay, 1 year is definitely important. Okay, so I equals PRT. We don't know what the interest is. That's what we're trying to figure out. Our principal is $318. We're not using an X for our multiplication because we are 7th grade mathematicians and we know that that would mess us up and we would think that those are variables. So I'm just putting a dot there for the multiplication. Okay, and our interest rate here is 9%. I'm going to go here on the side and just convert that so we know it's going to disappear. Keep doing that. I'm going to go over once, go over twice, and I have 0.09. And the time is 1 year, so multiplied by 1. So you're taking 318 times 0.09 times 1. Our interest then, and don't forget your unit, which is the $, is going to be $28.62. So that wasn't too bad. I know that you'll be able to get this. Okay, so let's look at another example. I'm going to use my cube strategy, and I'm going to circle the numbers. And this is interesting because you could cube this number, this 6, because it's a word, and it's an important word because it's actually a number, but it's a number word, so I'm going to circle it. And we know that we have years, and we know that our interest rate is going to be 10%. And the question that I'm required to answer is how much interest will you pay? So I'm going to write down my formula. Always write down your formula, because that way you know that you've got all the information in there that you need. So interest, my principal is $675. My rate is 10%, so I'm going to go over here so I can convert this. 1, 2, right? And then multiply by 0.10. Then we have 6 years. So our time is 6 years. So take a moment to multiply that on your calculator, pause the video, and come back. Okay, you should have got the answer of, don't forget your dollar sign there, $405. Okay, so if you did not get that answer, please raise your hand and I will come over, or Mr. Wallace will come over and see where you went wrong, which step you went wrong on. Okay, let's work with a problem that requires you to convert months to years. And you do have to pay attention to the words. So let's go ahead and use our cube strategy like we always do. We have 1,200, we have 5, and we have 6% there. Okay, so what is the question? On all these questions, it will be how much interest will you pay. So we know that we're always figuring out what I is. But there are some interesting words here. We have months instead of years. Okay, interest rate, that's important to know. And you know your interest rate is going to be a percentage. So that helps you give you some clues as to how you're going to solve this. Okay, so we know that our formula is I equals PRT. Okay, so our principal is 1,200. Our rate is 6%. Now remember how we convert that. So we have our decimal. We're going to move our decimal over 2 places. There's nothing there. There's nothing there, so we're going to add a 0. So we know that's going to change into 0.06. Now with the time, this one's interesting. So we have to ask ourselves, well, how many months are in a year? And we know that there are 12 months in a year. So what we're going to do is we know 5 months out of 12 months. So that's actually what we're going to be using to calculate this. Now you'll need to make sure that when you calculate this, you have a calculator with the ABC button on it. If you need help with this, please raise your hand and Mr. Wallace or I will come over and help you to find that button so that you can calculate this. So pause the video, go ahead and calculate it and come back and check your answer. Okay, so you should have gotten $30. If you didn't, raise your hand and we will come help you. But you are ready now to go ahead and get started on some practice.